Bhagavad Gita as it is. Chapter 4. Transcendental Knowledge. Text 1. Shri Bhagavanu Vacha Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavanaham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manurikshvakave Bravit. Synonyms. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Imam, this, Vivasvate, unto the Sun God, Yogam, the science of one's relationship to the Supreme, Proktavan, instructed, Aham, I, Avyayam, imperishable, Vivasvan, Vivasvan, the Sun God's name, Manave, unto the Father of mankind, of the name Vaivasvata, Praha, told, Manuhu, the father of mankind, Ikshvakave, unto King Ikshvaku, Abravit, said. Translation. The Blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the Sun God, Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Purport. Herein we find the history of the Bhagavad Gita traced from a remote time when it was delivered to the royal order, the kings of all planets. This science is especially meant for the protection of the inhabitants, and therefore the royal order should understand it in order to be able to rule the citizens and protect them from the material bondage to lust. Human life is meant for cultivation of spiritual knowledge in eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the executive heads of all states and all planets are obliged to impart this lesson to the citizens by education, culture, and devotion. In other words, the executive heads of all states are intended to spread the science of Krishna consciousness so that the people may take advantage of this great science and pursue a successful path utilizing the opportunity of the human form of life. In this millennium, the Sun God is known as Vivasvan, the King of the Sun, which is the origin of all planets within the solar system. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, Yachakshuresha savita sakala grahanam raja samasta suramurti rasesha tejaha yasyajnaya bhramati sambrita kala chakro govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. Let me worship, Lord Brahma said, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, Krishna, who is the original person and under whose order the Sun, which is the king of all planets, is assuming immense power and heat. The Sun represents the eye of the Lord and traverses its orbit in obedience to his order. The Sun is the king of the planets, and the Sun God, at present of the name Vivasvan, rules the Sun planet, which is controlling all other planets by supplying heat and light. He is rotating under the order of Krishna, and Lord Krishna originally made Vivasvan his first disciple to understand the science of Bhagavad Gita. The Gita is not, therefore, a speculative treatise for the insignificant mundane scholar, but is a standard book of knowledge coming down from time immemorial. In the Mahabharata, Shanti Parva, chapter 348, text 51 to 52, we can trace out the history of the Gita as follows. Treta yugadau cha tato vivasvan manave dadau manushchaloka vrityartam Sutayekshvakave dadau Ikshvakuna cha katito vyapya lokanavastitaha. In the beginning of the Treta Yuga, millennium, this science of the relationship with the Supreme was delivered by Vivaswan to Manu. Manu, being the father of mankind, gave it to his son Maharaja Ikshvaku, the king of this earth planet, and forefather of the Raghu dynasty in which Lord Ramachandra appeared. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita existed in the human society from the time of Maharaja Ikshvaku. At the present moment, we have just passed through 5,000 years of the Kali Yuga, which lasts 432,000 years. Before this, there was Dwapara Yuga, 800,000 years. And before that, there was Treta Yuga, 1,200,000 years. Thus, some 2,005,000 years ago, Manu spoke the Bhagavad Gita to his disciple and son Maharaja Ikshvaku, the king of this planet Earth. The age of the current Manu is calculated to last some 305,300,000 years, of which 120,400,000 have passed. Accepting that before the birth of Manu, the Gita was spoken by the Lord to his disciple, the sun god Vivaswan, a rough estimate is that the Gita was spoken at least 120,400,000 years ago. And in human society, it has been extant for 2 million years. It was re-spoken by the Lord again to Arjuna about 5,000 years ago. That is the rough estimate of the history of the Gita according to the Gita itself and according to the version of the speaker, Lord Shri Krishna. It was spoken to the sun god Vivaswan because he is also a Kshatriya and is the father of all Kshatriyas who are descendants of the sun god, or the Surya Vamsha Kshatriyas. Because Bhagavad Gita is as good as the Vedas, being spoken by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this knowledge is apaurusheya, superhuman. Since the Vedic instructions are accepted as they are without human interpretation, the Gita must therefore be accepted without mundane interpretation. The mundane wranglers may speculate on the Gita in their own ways, but that is not Bhagavad Gita as it is. Therefore, Bhagavad Gita has to be accepted as it is from the disciplic succession, and it is described herein that the Lord spoke to the sun god spoke to his son Manu, and Manu spoke to his son Ikshvaku.